Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity of Four Cons. We are so happy to have everybody here in the new year. Before we get started, I want everybody to turn around and look in the back left corner. Turn around, look in the corner. The bookstore moved. Oh, my left. That, yes, the other corner. And in the other corner is Gloria's new glorious art show. So both back corners are exciting. So the bookstore, the welcome team, decided that the bookstore needed to be more accessible. So they have worked like crazy to get all of the functions figured out. And so I want you to notice that there's a coffee pot and tea back there. It's perfectly okay with us to sip coffee and tea during the service. And we invite you to peruse the bookstore. Courtney, you want to?
Also, we're still working on logistics, so we don't have hot water there, but that is in the kitchen. But we hope to be able to have hot water for the tea back there very soon. But with the beautiful new bookstore, that I think our team did a great job, so I'm really excited about that. But along with that, it presents a new opportunity to volunteer. So if anybody wants to play sales girl, salesman, we have a sign-up sheet. We obviously will train you. We'll have somebody experienced with you your first few Sundays, and hopefully eventually, everybody will feel comfortable enough to work on their own. But if you're interested at all, please sign up, and we'll just chat with you and see if you're wanting to continue on with that. Thank you.
Hey, welcome team, would you stand up? Welcome team. Stand up. Let's cheer the welcome team. Yay! Thank you. So this is super nice. Welcome to the folks online. And our welcome team likes to put a welcome packet in the hands of newcomers. So if you are new to Unity of Fort Collins and would like a welcome packet, would you put your hand in the air and we'll plunk a packet in your hand? Yay! Keep your hand up and keep it up till we put a packet in your hand. All right, thank you. Woohoo! Lots of new people today. All right. She went to get more packets, so we'll do it again here in a second. Today, Reverend Jim is doing the service on intuition, and he will be holding a workshop right after the service on developing your intuitive skills. So if you'd like to stay for the workshop following the service, please join Jim. Sharon is doing a spiral dynamics class, and that is being held online, so please check your bulletin about that. We're starting a new training of prayer chaplains 2 Saturdays in a row. So if you're interested in joining the team of prayer chaplains, that training is coming up and we'd like to have you. Franklin Taggart, our dear Franklin, will be doing the music for us on January 29th. So make sure you come see Franklin. And today we have just an indication of how flexible we are. Justin Roth, who got COVID the last time he was going to sing for us, has the flu. So he's not here today, and we found this out yesterday. So Gerald and Holly and Brian are helping us out, so music just dwells among us. So we will be fine without our special music today. So thanks for the pinch hitters. I also want to repair a mistake I made last week. So I had just learned that Reverend Divine had passed and wanted to share it with the congregation. But I shared the news. We didn't do a moment of silence or a meditation or something, and we launched right into the hokey pokey, which wasn't quite right. So the hokey pokey was fine by itself. That was good. So anyway, let's take a minute now, right after our centering prayer, to hold Reverend Divine, Reverend Liz, and their respective congregations in prayer, and then we'll proceed with the service. Our unity centers us in light and peace, allowing us to recognize our God within and to radiate that love to the world. May love and peace and healing support folks grieving the loss of Divine Joy Young. And we bless them in their process. Amen.
That's funny. I know a Bob Swear who did lots of videos of Alaska and stuff that looks very much like you. So I'm going to sing. Do we have the words for Child of the Universe? We do not. There aren't very many. So I'll sing it through once, and then I'd like you to sing it with me. So I'll sing the first verse twice. That's all I get. I am a child of the universe, come here to be who I am. I am a child of the universe, and so are you, and so are you. So let's try that again. I am a child of the universe, come here to be who I am. I am a child of the universe, and so are you, and so are you. We'll do the same thing with the second verse. Sorry, but that's what we do when we don't have words. We are all children of the universe, born from the light of love. We are all children of the universe, and so are you, and so are you. One more time. We are all children of the universe, born from the light of love. We are all children of the universe, and so are you, and so are you. Good job.
Good morning. It's wonderful to see so many happy, sweet, loving hearts. And I know there are even more online. I was told today that the theme was intuition. And I tried for a couple of days to find a reading that really captured that, and I came up with a story instead. So first I thought, what do we call it? Because we seem to have so many different ways to describe intuition. Science will tell us it comes from our pheromones, from our micro expressions, from our vibrations when we are attracted to or pulled away from different things. Spirituality talks about it as a still small voice, our third eye, our collective consciousness, our better angels, our conscience, our muse. Ways that we guide ourselves when we're trying to decide what to do or where to be or what to get involved with. Why do we care? This guidance is really important. We can get lost in overthinking, or at least I know I can. And to guide us beyond words, that gut feeling, how do we describe it? How do we tune into it? How is this useful when we're trying to be our better selves? Well, I found that sometimes it's easier to connect for me than other times. Is that true for anybody else? Yes? Okay, so I think about, when do I become disconnected from this? Is there a big traumatic experience that happened, kind of like when the bomb goes off and you can't hear something really loud? Lack of perspective or grounding, when I really want to please someone else, and I do it whether or not it's good for me. And that's something I continually work on unlearning. Try to be good in a win-win situation. So that's the why do we care when? Well, my dad was great about telling me lots of different stories as we were growing up. And one of the things that he told me that was really helpful was, we're here to learn lessons. We're here to learn how to be better. You don't have to be perfect. In fact, most of us can't ever, maybe in one moment, but in the striving, the lesson will whisper. It'll tap you on the shoulder, and it'll get perpetually more insistent as we ignore it. And, we get to decide, how much pain do we need before we start trying to listen? Dad said next it would hit you over the head, but with a 2x4. As a carpenter, that was a clear. Lil said it'll kick you in the butt. When I was talking to her about it yesterday. And so when I notice that things are getting harder, I want to try to tune in, whether it's in my emotional self, in my work, in how do I try to achieve the things that I've set as goals. So how do we do that? For me, I used to be able, before I became a parent, I used to be able to go into the mountains, and I would terrify my parents by taking a tent and my truck and sometimes my dog and go for 3 or 4 days as far as away from humans as I could get and just listen. And I didn't talk to anybody, and I didn't read much. I just tried to exist. And what I was doing was trying to let the water clear. Imagine you're sitting by the side of a stream and there's all that soft mud in the bottom, and you squish your toes in it and it muddies the water, right? But if you want to know where the rock is that you don't want to stub your toe on, you've got to be still and let the water clear. And it feels true for me when I'm trying to listen to that part of me inside that is instinctual or intuitive. And the more noise there is going on, the harder time I have getting to it. So I think of this camping as being still and letting the water clear. Well, as I've become a parent, that is not always the time I have. And so how can I do this when I live in a city, but I remember growing up in the country, or I don't have 3 or 4 days uninterrupted? In fact, as a parent, I'm glad if I get 15 minutes uninterrupted. And as I'm trying to let the water clear, the habit of tuning in, of asking, am I being true to myself? Am I trying to deny something because it's inconvenient or doesn't match with my identity or how I want things to be? In that habit of tuning in, are there guiding principles that can help me, that I can clarify for myself? Do I put money above all things? No. I was a teacher. You know that's not true. But what things are dearest to me? What helps guide me when I feel lost, when I feel stuck in the mud, when I feel like things aren't clear? And one of those is trying to understand multiple perspectives and making fewer assumptions about what's true, about the one right way. And so finding what's true for me is part of that voice. So then, how do we move forward with that? I want to begin by restating none of us are perfect. When I try to do something perfect or make it right the first time, that's when I get writer's block, that's when I freeze, that's when I struggle. But what's the next step? What's the next thing I can do? Maya Angelou is one person that I've read a lot of that helps me. Thich Nhat Hanh, there are a bunch of them, but her idea of do the best you can with what you've got, learn from every experience, and then do better. I use that often as a guidance where I can't know everything ahead of time, but I can always act in good faith and try to tune in. So I listen, I act in good faith, I acknowledge how little I am actually in control. Life will teach you this over and over. My marriage years and years ago taught me that a lot. And then I wanted to share with you my favorite prayer that helps me with this as well. Because often we think we know what needs to happen next or what would be the right thing, and then we find out later when it didn't happen that way why that was actually more to our benefit. If you listen to country music, unanswered prayers is one of the themes, right? One of the greatest gifts. And so my favorite prayer, may the right things happen, and may that be blessed to our understanding. Thank you.
All right. No words again, but you're kind of going to be on your own. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. I need a note. Kind friends all gather round. Here's something I would say. What brings us together here blesses us today. Love has made a circle that holds us all inside, where strangers are as family and loneliness can't hide. So give yourself to love, if love is what you're after. Open up your hearts to tears and laughter, yes, and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Love is born in fire and planted like a seed. I don't know these words. I don't have these words. Perhaps we have a next verse. Well, just listen to my verse. Love is born in fire and planted like a seed. Love can't give you everything, but it gives you what you need. Love comes when you're ready. Love comes when you're afraid. It'll be your greatest teacher, the best friend you have made. So give yourself to love, if love is what you're after. Open up your hearts to the tears and laughter, yes, and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love, so give yourself to love. If love is what you're after, open up your hearts to the tears and laughter, yes, and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love, yes, yes, give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Thank you.
And yes, thank you, Gerald. When someone calls on a Saturday afternoon, they say that they're ill and can't be here, you begin to scramble, and somebody in this congregation always comes forth and just fills in the little slot that's needed. So this is a beautiful place, beautiful people, beautiful talent. Well, I wanted to talk with you a little bit today about this subject of intuition. Do you happen to know this guy on the screen? Who is that? Steve Jobs, right? The founder of Apple. He has a very interesting story. It's told to him in his biography. This man, of course, was a forerunner in the graphical user interface on computers. How many of you have an iPhone? That iPhone is the result of intuition. Did you know that? I'm going to read from his biography. Intuition is a very powerful thing, more powerful than intellect. And in his biography it says you have to trust in something. Your gut, your destiny, your life, karma, whatever. The approach has never let me down, and it has made all of the difference in my life. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. Now, what I did is I just quoted Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, you might think of him as being the brainiest guy on this planet. When you talk about smart kids, you often say, you're just like Einstein. But you know, Albert Einstein never, ever depended on his intellect. He said right here, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Many of his discoveries, you might say, many of his theories in science, he shared how they just came to him from out of the blue somewhere. He'd be sitting in a doctor's office and he had a thought. And later on he went and he tried to prove the thought. The gift of intuition. Gift of intuition is always there. There's an interesting story that's found in the scriptures. It's about Jesus. You know the story of Jesus and the woman at the well? Well, they began a conversation. First of all, she was quite surprised because she was a Samaritan. And the Jews weren't very used to talking to Samaritans. You know, they're the outcasts in society. But Jesus was talking to her. And they began to talk about water and living water. And she didn't seem to catch on. She thought he was talking about physical water. And she says, how are you going to draw water when you don't even have a cup or a bucket in order to carry it in? Then suddenly in this story, he says something interesting. He says, go and get your husband and bring him here. And she says, I don't have a husband. And Jesus then says, you're right, woman. Thank you for being honest. We know that you've had 5 husbands, and the man that you're living with right now is not your husband. How did Jesus know that? It's that intuition that we all have. He demonstrated intuition, the ability to read another. Well, the question comes up. Do you have intuition? How many of you think you have intuition? I see there's more women here that are raising their hands than the men. Well, I've got a very simple test for you. Hold out your hand like this. Now, put your thumb on your wrist. All right? Do you feel something? Do you feel it? If you've got a pulse, you've got intuition. And if you don't have a pulse, will you please call 911 quickly? We all have this gift of intuition. But you know, in our Western society, we have become so used to using the intellect, that part of us that's the intellect, which Albert Einstein himself says is not the gift. It's not what he depended upon in many of his scientific discoveries. Not the intellect. It's that gift of intuition. So the question is, what is intuition? We have a bookstore back here now. If you're interested, there's some books back there. And there's this book called Radical Intuition. I recommend it highly. And while you're picking up the books, there's muffins back there and coffee and all kinds of things. By the way, do you know what the difference between a muffin and a cupcake is? Yeah, all you need to do is take a cupcake, you lick the icing off it, and you got a muffin. All right? Well, anyway, I'm going to go over here to page 93 about knowing your intuition. 93 in this book, I've actually photocopied it here so that I have a little larger font. Before you can follow your intuition, we have to be sure of what it really is. You need to know with confidence that our inner guidance is not our imagination, it's not our fears, it's not our wishes, not just some random thought. To live insightfully, we must learn to recognize and trust in the truth within us. Within us. And you know how many times that in our services here we've talked about that? The spot where God is within us. Within us, within our very heart, within our very beings. All the great spiritual masters teach that. This is one of the most far-reaching challenges of intuition. How do we define something that is so undefinable? And Holly did a good job of attempting that definition. How do we distinguish the subtle qualities that differentiate the genius of insight from all the other voices in our head? As we explore this question, you may be surprised, very surprised, to discover that the answers are more concrete than you think. So, in your bulletin today, we've given you some defining qualities of intuition. And I've prepared that for you so you can take it home and think about it and look at it and read about it. Because I believe that this ability to use our intuition is one of the most important spiritual qualities in life. It served me well. But most of us, we have it, but we just haven't developed it. And you know, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So, the defining qualities of intuition. Intuition comes from your personal truth, not from other people's opinions. I've told so many folks in our classes, it's not what my thought is, it's not what my truth is, it's not what I believe that's important. It's that truth that resides always within you. And it's there. That still small voice they talk about is within us. Always presence, always talking. The very voice of Spirit talks from within us. Intuition is not the result of any thinking, judging, or realization. And I have to admit that even in our spiritual communities, we're so often leaning on judgment and other things that come to us from the little voice in our head rather than the true spiritual voice. It's not any of those things. It's that truth that's within us and always accessible. Intuition never arises from a place of fear or desire or ego. You're fearful about something, if that voice is fearful, if that voice is not telling us what's good for everyone concerned, that's not intuition. It's another voice, an imposter. And the fourth principle is intuition abides and persists as a constant truth. Sometimes we call it the hound of heaven. It'll keep on repeating over and over and over again. Intuition, that voice. And then there is a checklist in that handout that you might refer to. And we've given you a few of the things that help you find out if it's your intuition that is speaking versus something else. In fact, I'm going to give you a quotation here. This is from Anne Lamott. She wrote the book Bird by Bird, and amazingly in that book there's a lot about intuition. Be careful. Be careful. If your intuition says that your story sucks, make sure it is really your intuition and not your mother. So, I'd like to give you perhaps a couple of examples from my own life. I appreciate Holly's talk up here or sharing with you examples from her own life. And I wish we had the time to call on many of you to share examples from your own life. And I know there's many, many amazing stories of how intuition has come to you and how you found truths and what you really need to know in life from that voice. One of the things that I recalled is a few years ago, is 2005, Sharon came to me and she said, I think I feel called to go to the Unity Seminary and be ordained as a Unity minister. I said, oh, really? Unity Seminary is in Lee's Summit, Missouri, Unity Village, Missouri, actually. And I was wondering, so what I did is went to that place within. Am I to stay in California while Sharon goes to Missouri? What is the truth? And what happens in these situations when I go into that place of quietness, when I go to that place within, answers begin to appear. And the answer that I got in my meditation, you see, one of the secrets of finding your intuition is to allow space for it. Our rational mind tends to want to dominate. It's like that being that's always talking. But we take the time and go into the quietness. We give it space. And we begin to hear truth. And truth begins to show up in the most unexpected places. Well, my truth at the time said to me, let it be, let it be. That particular set of words, in fact, is found in a song, right? I brought a copy here, let me.
Just don't sing,
Yeah, yeah. This church made me promise before they had me come here. Just don't sing. But those words, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. Let it be. A Beatles song. And who is Mother Mary in this song? Do you know? John's mom. Yes, her name was Mary. And she died of breast cancer. And here is John's mother coming to him in these times and speaking to him. How many of you have had that experience of a loved one coming to you, perhaps your mom, and speaking words of wisdom? And what's important here is let it be, let it be. And that seems to be a resounding message that I get so often. When someone has caused me to be kind of angry, kind of upset, kind of disappointed, so many times the answer that I get from that voice is, just let it be. You don't have to do anything. Just let it be. So on that path to seminary, I filled out the forms, I put down the references, wrote all kinds of material to be applied to the Unity Seminary. But the voice inside continually said, just let it be. Let it be. Now it's very unusual for them to accept husband and wife in the same seminary class at Unity. And I went into those interviews just letting it be. I was afraid at times that I was being too nonchalant and they'd think I didn't desire to be there. But I just let it be. Let it be. And so in the spring of 2005, Sharon and I both got letters simultaneously admitting us to seminary. It works. Just let it be. Let it be. Here at Unity of Fort Collins, had a similar situation. Here we lived in Loveland, and this community needed a minister. And I didn't really even send you much of a resume at the beginning. I just let it be. Just let it be. Things always come about in the time and place that is perfect if you let it be. But what we do is we try to force things. We try to force our will, our desire. So we just let it be. Let it be. Now there are a number of different, what we call archetypes, as we explore this subject of intuition. Intuition comes to various ones of us in different ways. In this particular book, Radical Insight, it gives 4 different archetypes. One being the healer, there's a visionary, the sage, and the mystic. And during our discussion after the service and the workshop, I'm going to give you a little quiz, a little test, if you can stay. And you can check off some things and discover which you are. Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to just open this book for a moment to the section on the sage. And give you, in fact, let me do it this way. a sage archetype. If you are a sage archetype or a mindful intuitive, you are a wise one. You have the natural ability to tune into your superconscious wisdom to guide your life and guide others. You're a natural leader. You are a teacher, a counselor, a transformational guide. You have an affinity for the practical application of intuition. You're good at using your intuition to make daily decisions and judgment calls. You may often experience superconscious knowings, including things like telepathy, foresight, and other forms of insight. The purpose of this kind of intuition is to understand the reality of your life and of life itself, and to share this higher wisdom and truth of the world. So that's just one of the types of intuitives. And every one of you online, every one of you here sitting here this morning are an intuitive type. You have that ability to relax and let Spirit talk to you, God talk to you, the universe talk to you. One of the things that you'll find that as you use this skill is as you communicate with others, you'll gain insights and knowledge and wisdom that you can share with others around you. It's a wonderful skill. It's too bad here in our Western society that we have so often put the intellect above the insight that comes from intuition. So I think I'll leave that with that until our workshop at about 15 minutes after 11 for about an hour. We have some more material. And if you're more interested in this subject, there's two wonderful books. They're back there in the bookstore. Developing Intuition, Shakti Gawain. And this one, Radical Intuition, Kim Chesney. And one of the things I hope to do in the future is as you explore these subjects, maybe we might be able to get together by Zoom or in person in a class and just answer questions and share these experiences with each other as a community. So thank you for being here. Thank you for just being a part of this wonderful, loving community. God bless you.
Ready? Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is everywhere. And every thought's indeed a prayer.
So in this moment of meditation, I'd invite you to just gently shut your eyes. Just gently go to your breath. Just breathe in and breathe out. And so in this moment, in this very sacred moment, we go to that place within, that very place where the presence of God shows up. Yes, you or I, we're the place that God shows up. Shows up in this world in so many roles. So our thoughts go to our world. How do we show up? Do we show up as that very presence of God, empowered, informed by that thing we call intuition, that very voice within us, it's always present. And so in this moment, it is a moment of quietness. We listen. We listen for that voice. And yes, we know we can ask any question in the universe at any time, and the answer will be there. From that innate intelligence within us, from that innate intelligence in everything and everyone, that voice of the universe, that voice of spirit, that voice of love. So we are so thankful for that guidance. We don't have to be alone. We don't have to be without that guidance. We listen. We listen. The voice is always there. And so we affirm this. And we go out into this world knowing it's always, always there. In the name of the Christ presence. Amen.
May the blessings of God rest upon me. May God's peace abide in me. May God's presence illuminate my heart now and forevermore. May the blessings of God rest upon you. May God's peace abide in you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore. May the blessings of God rest upon us. May God's peace abide in us. May God's presence illuminate our hearts now and forevermore.
So we come to the time in our service where we take our love offering. And I trust that you give out of love, give out of the abundance that you are. So let's state our love offering blessing together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive.
Thank you, God. We may or may not have the words for this next song. It's called Circle Chant. And Brian is giving me a C, I'm sure. A C, and then how about an E? I got it now. In this circle of love, in this circle of peace, in this circle of love, in this circle of peace, I feel our unity, love, sweet security. I feel our unity, love, sweet security in this circle of love, in this circle of peace, in this circle of love, in this circle of peace. I feel our unity, love, sweet security. I feel our unity, love, sweet security. Thank you. I have one quick intuitive hint. This was shared by Alan Cohen, a very famous author. And my wife and I have used it many times. When we have a vexing problem before us, we flip a coin. Heads is yes, tails is no. And it really doesn't matter what comes up. What matters is, how do I feel about what came up? How do I feel? If it comes up yes, and I think, oh, crap, then the answer is no.
Gerald Gates always manages to come up with something much more creative than I ever thought of. So thank you, Gerald. Hey, Julie, do we have some folks, some little folks there? Let's go ahead and sing them in. Okay. So, who's the leader of this little band of lights?
Oh, okay. Um, uh, okay. Uh, so today the teen group talked about intuition and like about ourselves. Yeah. No, take it.
We wrote letters to ourselves, and me, Thomas, and Audrey decided to do snow farming. So we wrote stuff that we didn't want stuff. And then instead of burning it on fire, because we didn't want to do that in church, we put it in a bottle of water.
Well, thank you. By the way, you know, these little lights could use a couple of volunteers back there. So if you'd love to work with them, I think the position might be open. You, you might want to apply pretty quickly, though, because it might be filled before too long. So thank you. Thank you, guys. You want to go and find your parents? All right, go ahead. Yeah, yeah. Good, thank you. And thank you, Stacy. Hey, just happened to think about something. How many of you had a birthday during the month of January? Yeah, we've got a tradition here that if you just raised your hands, you have to come forward. So, would you come here? And Joellen, where's our birthday person?
Good morning. Oh boy, look at all these birthday people. Oh boy. Okay, I'm going to pass the mic, and please say your name and the day of the month that you were born.
I'm David, and I'm born next Sunday.
I'm Bob, and January 27th. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there.
Snuck up on you. I'm Paul, January 22nd.
I'm Pat, January 20th.
I'm Audrey, January 11th. I'm Gabriel, January 11th.
I'm Freya, December 15th.
I'm Jenny, January 4th.
And I'm Mike, January 10th.
Okay, now we're going to sing to our birthday people here and at home. And we'll use the word beloveds where you put the name. Okay? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear beloveds. Happy birthday to you.
Well, thank you. And again, we are so grateful for each and every one of you that just being part of our community today. We have a lunch bunch. We're all going to lunch at Avogadro's, whatever that place is. So join us if you would. And then, of course, we have a workshop here for about an hour, starting at about 11:15. I've got some films and so forth for you. Okay, on the screen, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. So let's all circle up for our peace song.